What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, welcome. I'm T Blizzy. This is Taboo Tidbits, where we talk about taboo and controversial topics. I also have a small business, an apparel brand that is directly connected to this YouTube channel for the purpose of normalizing and combating the societal suppression of our truest beliefs. So check those out if you're interested. That is me. I'm gonna get started. Today's topic is gonna be a little heavy. This is your trigger warning right now. There's going to be mentions of rape and sexual assault. Yesterday, I posted a TikTok replying to another creator's video talking about how men and women can't be friends. I'll link it right here.
The only thing that stops men and women from being able to be friends is men.
So this is a very common question. Can men and women be friends? And I always used to think it was true. Back when I was in high school, I had like a bunch of different groups of friends, but my main friend group was these 4 guys. Like, it was just the guys and me. Those were my homies. I always felt a little bit uncomfortable around them because sometimes they would like touch me weird or whatever, and I just thought they were being like affectionate because we were homies, okay, for years. I didn't think it was weird. Then my best friend in that group of 10 years, I guess, had enough of the waiting and playing the long game and being in the friend zone that Then I understood why I felt so uncomfortable around them, because given the chance, they all would have said yes if I offered them. I don't think they'd all take it by force like my friend did, but they definitely all would have said yes. Now, I don't have any male friends that I actually hang out with. I have a couple here and there, but none of them live in the country. The closest guy friend I have right now, I've known for 2 years, and I've never met him, and he lives in the States. So that video kind of blew up overnight, and because I've become so desensitized to this topic, I didn't really understand the heaviness of it until I saw the comments. The amazing comments, by the way. The people on TikTok are incredible. Thanks for almost 30K, by the way. But I saw people saying, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, etc. And I kind of just had slipped it in the video kind of nonchalantly. I've been trying to make a video about this for such a long time, but my thing was I didn't want to make people feel uncomfortable. But then I was like, wait, my whole YouTube channel is made for the purpose of making people feel uncomfortable and helping people work through that discomfort and start to normalize these feelings and these conversations. So that's what we're doing today. So I mean, I've already kind of shared my story, and I might as well like actually take the time to share it, because I feel as though it is a type of situation that many other women have been in, and it took me a long time to realize what it was and to take it for what it was, because the lines for consent sometimes may feel as though they're blurry. We're not taught what proper consent is, and I'm gonna link the consent and tea video below, because I think it's a really great video to explain consent. But at that time, it was about 2 years ago, I blamed myself, as most of us do. So I'm making this video for Tyra from 2 years ago. Who I think could have benefited from seeing something like this. This is for me from 2 years ago, and this is for all the women who have been in the situation, or all the young women who may be in the situation in the future. This is why I'm here, basically. So I'm actually gonna go backwards. I'm gonna start with how I coped with this and how I dealt with this, solely for the purpose of those who don't want to hear any details. I understand how that can make people feel uncomfortable, and how that can actually trigger some people. So I will give the coping mechanism that I feel may help a lot of other women who have been through this. And quick side note, I'm going to be referring to women and men in this way. I'm just going to focus on the bulk of these statistics here. Like, the majority of people who are raped, sexually assaulted are women. I understand that men are also assaulted, and I don't want to disregard them. I'm just speaking through my experience. So when I use those general statements, please keep in mind that I'm not trying to ignore male victims. I want to address those women who want to find ways to deal with the things and the pain that they're dealing with, but they don't necessarily want to hear about someone else's. So after I go through the coping mechanisms, you can feel free to click off. As per my video, I was raped by my best friend. And it took me about 2 months to actually understand what it was. I find that the way I came to terms with this fully and completely was somewhat recently. When I was told to visualize Tyra from 2 years ago, and to take her and to hug her and to tell her that whoa, that snuck up on me. What the heck? Jeez. Regroup. Take Tyra from 2 years ago, hug her, and tell her that she did the best that she could do with the knowledge and the resources she had at the time. So if you've been in that situation, if you've been assaulted, if you've been raped, if you've been in any type of difficult situation, imagine yourself from that time. Love yourself, appreciate yourself, give yourself a hug, and tell yourself that you did the best that you could do given the resources and the knowledge you had at the time. And when I finally came to terms with that, I think I forgave myself. Like I always thought, man, I could have done this and I could have done that and I should have known this. And at the end of the day, I didn't have the knowledge, that I didn't have the resources, that I didn't have the same level of confidence, the same level of education. So why regret something that I couldn't have changed anyways, right? So just forgive yourself by acknowledging that you did the best that you could given the resources and the knowledge that you had at the time. Okay, that's my advice. If you don't want to hear about my experience, click off. But if you do, I find that this is an example of a tough situation when it comes to what is consent and what is not. This is for all the people who are young or old, doesn't even matter. It was harder than I thought it was gonna be. Let me just start off by saying this. You are allowed to withdraw consent. You are allowed to say yes and then say no at any point. I had to make that disclaimer because I didn't know that. I mean, like I did, but I was convinced that I wasn't allowed to do that. So I'm not gonna get into the nitty-gritty, but one day went over to my friend's house, best friend, okay? We hadn't hung out alone together because we had a group of friends, a group of guy friends. We hadn't hung out just us two together in like a long time. And we talked about everything. And I had told him before I went over, no money business. Like I'm in a place right now where I don't even want to think about hooking up with anybody or doing anything, like none of that, right? So he was well aware of my intentions going over there, which he should have known. Again, we were like best friends. And you know, we were playing a little drinking game, getting a little tipsy, and then getting a little more hands-on. And then he asked if he could go get a condom, and I was like, yeah. And then as soon as he left, I was like, wait, why did I say yes? Like, what? After all these years, like 5-6 years of him like asking, I've always said no because I wanted to preserve our friendship. So why, like, you know? So I was like, never mind. When he came back, I said, never mind. Like, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said yes. Like, let's just finish watching this movie. Like, whatever. But in his mind, he had already gotten his yes that he had been waiting for so long. And from there, it was just kind of, it was like he wasn't hearing me. Like I was pretty obviously resisting. I said no, and I said no a numerous number of times. And then I just kind of remember, like, this is the only part that I really vividly remember. Everything else was just kind of blurry, but I remember like staring up at the ceiling, like right past his head, and just like leaving my body. Like I can see myself looking down at myself from the ceiling. And then I just kind of like disappeared. And then I kind of snapped back into it after like a few minutes, and I was like, no, I wanted this. Like, I was like, it's already happening, so I'm just gonna try to convince myself that I wanted it the whole time. So that's what I did. I tried to convince myself that I wanted it for like a couple months. I think right after I left, I texted him saying, hey, like next time, if I say no, that means no. And he like blew up and was like, you're painting me out to be a bad guy, blah, 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 gaslighting, da, da, da. So, I mean, that's where the falling out happened. I'm not gonna include all of the details because that's just not, there's no need to go further than that. But I didn't realize what had happened until 2 months later when I talked to my friend about it, and she said, that's rape. And I was like, what? Because I thought that I wasn't allowed, like he had convinced me that I had said yes, therefore like I was not allowed to say no. 20-year-old Tyra was naive, I guess. So the reason I'm sharing that story is because I want people to know that you're allowed to withdraw consent, number one, okay? I also want people to see that, and I saw this comment on my TikTok and it really, really resonated with me, so shout out the person who commented this. They said that people think that rapists are people who jump out of the bushes with a knife and kidnap, and not chads who push shots and don't take no for an answer. That is huge. The reason why rape and sexual assault is so prevalent is because there's so many men who don't even know that they've done it. I think my friend for the longest time didn't want to accept what had happened. Like, I don't think he did anything wrong. And there are a lot of men who are like that, who don't understand consent and like genuinely don't think they did anything wrong. They felt they were entitled to that woman's body. And that's the problem. And a lot of these people think like, oh, rapists are such terrible, awful people. Like, I don't believe that. I just believe that there are a lot of men who have misogyny ingrained within them from the moment they're brought into this world, right? And that's not their fault. We are living in a very misogynistic society, and the men who have failed to do that unlearning are still going to have those intrusive misogynistic thoughts, whether they're conscious or not. So a lot of men feel entitled to women's bodies without, you know, really acknowledging that. And a lot of these are like the self-proclaimed good guys who think they respect women because they love their mom and etc. But little do they know they've actually assaulted someone before. I'm not just speaking through my experience, I'm speaking through a lot of other women's experiences. And I don't think these guys are bad guys. I just think there's a lot to unpack. Now, just to give people some perspective, I know people don't, a lot of people, specifically men here, don't really see rape and sexual assault as like a real issue, as something that is so prevalent. You know, depending on what website you go to, the statistics are going to be different. And just for reference, and the reason why I'm so desensitized to this right now is because one day I was out with my friends. It was one of my friends' birthday, and there were 9 of us there, and we were talking about some situation having to do with men making us feel uncomfortable, like typical woman stuff, like typical conversation that we have. And I just kind of zoned out for a second, and I realized like that out of the 9 of us, 5 of us had been raped. And I wasn't super close with everyone in that group, so I only knew of the 5. The other girls could have experienced the same thing, I just didn't know. But at least confirmed 5 of us out of the 9. And I know that's just my friend group, but like, that's not a coincidence. You know what I mean? Like, this is such a huge issue, and none of us had reported, by the way. So, like, there are so many women who don't report. There's so many women who don't report, and I used to say the same thing. I used to be like, you have to get justice, you have to report, like, come on. And then I experienced it myself, and I started to understand why so many women don't report. And one of my friends, different friend group, another one of my friends, had experienced this as well. And you know, he was a university athlete, and she went to try to get justice. She went to the police, and she went through a year-long process, a grueling process of being picked apart on the stand, the defense attorney trying to blame everything on her, like, and at the end of the day, in my opinion, he only got a slap on the wrist. So the system, the criminal justice system, has not been built for us. So let's just keep that in mind. I don't want this video to be like 100 years long, but if you've learned something from this, if you've gained something from this, let me know in the comments. If this was valuable to you in any way, shape, or form, let me know in the comments. This is already looking like it's long, disorganized. Like, I had a plan. I promise I had a plan, but I didn't know it was gonna be so hard to talk about this. So here we are. I'm just gonna watch this back and see if this is salvageable. But if you gained something from this, let me know. Thank you so much for all the people who have been following my TikTok and like actually learning things about racism and sexism, feminism. Like, it's just great that people are starting to actually wanting to educate themselves on these topics. And TikTok is the reason that I'm making this YouTube video right now. So education is elevation, my friends. Shout out consciously. I'm out. Damn.